Namaskar. I am your host Ashish Bhardwaj, a DPS Mathura Road alumnus, and I welcome you all to ALMA Talks, an initiative of DPS Alumni Network. I will now invite my co-host Tanya Khanna.
Hello everyone, I am Tanya from 2008 batch. Presently I am working with Wipro and I am based out of Delhi. Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to co-host this lovely people.
Tanya, thanks for being a wonderful co-host. Now let me introduce our guests. I have Isha Dhodi of 2005 batch of DPS Mathura Road. She's based in London. And my second guest is Sunil Bhargav. He is from DPS Argepuram and is currently in Fairfax, Virginia. That's Isha of 2005 batch, a sweet little young lady. She's head of services in Children's Center and strategic manager. She did her BA honors in psychology and MA in social work, based out of London, UK. Then Sunil Bhargav, 1985 batch. He's the managing director of Accenture. He's a bachelor's in computer engineering and MS in software and systems, based out of Fairfax. Welcome you both to this show, and I would now like to introduce Rajiv Soni to you all. And Rajiv, please come in and introduce yourself. And thereafter, I would request you to ask the first question.
Okay, so 1976 batch, DPS Mathura Road. I'm a chartered accountant by academic profession, but over the years I moved into education, and now I'm a published author, and I'm trying to publish my third novel titled Isha, and here I am now asking you the first question. So Isha, tell me something. Dealing with children is very, very difficult, and I'm sure, though they say that dealing with children comes natural and easy, to ladies. Is that correct? That's my first question. And second question is that how did you choose this particular line?
So I'll start with the second question first, because that kind of is the background. I got really interested in psychology during my 12th grade at school. And I then decided to pursue the subject. So I moved on to do my undergraduation in psychology honors. And that kind of gave me a very good exposure into the field. And I was very confident that this was the area that I wanted to be in. But then towards the end, I realized that the exposure that I had in terms of the volunteer work that I was doing, I realized that I wanted to get into more social policy aspect of mental health. And aside from doing a lot of counseling courses and looking into clinical work, I felt that I felt the need that there was a lot of strategic kind of thinking needed at more policy levels. So I decided to then pursue social work, but keeping mental health as the center of my practice. And that's how I got into the field. So there was a lot of passion, there was a lot of thinking, there was a lot of, I think, enthusiasm in myself to realize that, this was the field. I was quite confident about that. Coming about the second question, it doesn't come easy to look after children, and it really depends on what context we are referring to looking after children. I'm sure as a mother or as a relative, it is but natural for those kind of emotions to come. But I think my practice in social work at this, and even in my undergrads in psychology, really gave me the value base and the kind of skills that would be very counseling led in terms of dealing, understanding, and having that kind of empathy towards people and the social issues. And only to realize then that I felt that, working with children would be an area where I was comfortable with. Although I also worked with adults with mental health needs, and which I continue even now as part of my practice, but obviously not anymore because I'm more towards management. But that is an area our daily practice in that sense. So yes, there is a lot of training and a lot of work experience and a lot of knowledge base behind getting those kind of skill mix to deliver the work. I'm hoping that I do have some natural attributes that do make me, more efficient towards children. So I hope I've
Right.
answered
So
your question.
natural attributes. That's what I was trying to get at. So the future generation is well taken care of. We have people like Isha around town, around the globe, so we can take it easy. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Isha. Okay, over to you,
Okay.
Sunil. So Sunil, you are in a leadership role, and just the day before yesterday, I had gone to the army polyclinic over here to get some papers signed for my mom, and the head of the army polyclinic was not there, and yet everything moved so seamlessly that I could not help writing a note to the head of the army hospitals saying what a wonderful leadership quality the commander Yadav has. And he was kind of taken aback and said, he says, in my 30 years here, nobody's ever written a note like that. So my question to you is that, of course, you're in the commercial world. Can you envisage a day when you may not be at work and everything works perfectly?
Well, Rajiv ji, it's number one, it's awesome that आपने notice किया or acknowledge किया what experience you saw. I think one of the greatest way to see that happen more and more across all service providers is to notice and share when you get impressed. And I'm so happy that you are one of those individuals. Now, in terms of my own workplace, I don't have to envision a day like that. It happens virtually every day. So I have a team of over 60 people who report directly to me. Obviously, I have them organized as teams, but I am responsible for all of them myself. And I, in a day, may only talk to 4 or 5 of them. And the rest of the time, they have complete understanding of what our mission is, our team's mission. That's important. And you saw that when you visited the Army officers, that everybody knew why they were there. So that's the first and most important thing. Second, it's easier to do in the military forces, but it's certainly true in my line of work, that everybody knows their role and responsibility. Because in order to do anything these days, you have to depend on a lot of your colleagues to get it done. And if your personal roles and responsibilities are not expressively known, then you run into a problem of overlap, missed expectations. So that's something that the military certainly makes it happen very well, and we do that at work as well. The third is that the people have to feel appreciated. Now, you provided external appreciation. That's awesome. But surely the leadership there and in my line of work, we are constantly ensuring that the people know that their efforts are appreciated, how important their contributions are, and when appropriate, provide constructive criticism and coaching. With these 3 things in place, I wouldn't be surprised if more and more organizations that bother to do this will be able to demonstrate the same results that you were fortunate enough to experience yourself.
Great. You took me down memory lane when I read Peter Drucker way back in college when it said all management tools, all management rules have all emanated from the US Army. Yeah. So, yeah.
They did have a lot of good leaders.
Yeah, a lot of it did. So thank you very much, both of you. Over to Ashish and to Tanya to host the show. Thank you very much, and I'm around.
Thanks, Rajiv.
Thank you.
My next question is to Sunil. Sunil, you moved to US sometime back. So tell us about your initial years in the new country.
I moved in the early 80s, and early 80s wasn't as difficult as some of my friends who I got to know later on had moved in the 60s, where the concept of vegetarianism was alien. There was simply no access to any of the Indian spices and the rest. In the early 80s, things had already started to change. And yet the cultural aspect of India hadn't quite arrived in the manner that it has today. So you could certainly go to an Indian store for your Indian groceries, and it would be the first. I mean, there won't be another one for 20, 40 miles. So, but at least it was there. People knew certainly from the 60s about yoga and vegetarianism, etc., but it was still on the fringe. You could go to many restaurants who would have literally nothing to offer if you did not eat meat. The concept of India, Hindi, Hindu was all merged, and people would reasonably ask the question, to their mind reasonably anyway, do you speak Indian? And of course, my answer would be, as much as you speak American. And they're like, no, no, we speak English. I said, aha. You know, so you still had to go through some of that because broad awareness wasn't quite there. But so the biggest thing, movies weren't quite available. Certainly, internet wasn't there. To call India was, you know, $4.50 a minute. So in the early 80s, you still felt quite disconnected with your family and your culture. And that's what has changed since.
Okay, Isha, I'll ask the same question to you. Almost a decade in UK. So tell us something about your initial years there.
I moved here in 2010, straight after I completed my master's. And I think coming here prior to that phase was very important early in 2010 when I got selected and I made a decision to come here. And I think at that time, there were a lot of discussions in the family, you know, whether I should leave India and whether it's the right decision. You know, a lot of opinions coming and views coming, but it was my dad who really, really supported me. And he really, you know, made that, help me out in that decision. So that kind of helped me a bit to just, you know, there were so many conflicting views at the time. So I think the credit really goes to him for having such an open mind at that time and being so supportive. And when I got here, I think I entered, this is my first job. This was my first work experience that I got. So I think the first year was very learning oriented in that sense, because social work in India and in UK is very different. Here it is run under a legal structure, so a lot of time and effort and dedication went to just understand and get the skill mix. There was a lot of new things to learn. There was a lot of unlearning to be done as well, to, you know, fit here in terms of practice. And definitely, you know, just it was so nostalgic not having family around, and we got to do all the chores, got to manage finances and all. But I think because I had lived in Bombay by myself for 2 years before coming to London, and that was largely in a hostel setting and all, I think that kind of gave me, that set the scene for me to know that, you know, how you got to manage independently. And there was a lot of dedication and hard work in first few years, just at a professional front, also at a personal front, to kind of acclimatize to the work culture here. And I was just sharing that I think I was really blessed to have met some mentors and managers who really led the path for me and really taught me a lot. So so then it was fine, you know, once you're settled, made friends and met some lovely people who then became literally family to me. So those were my initial years here.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, Sunil, I come back to you. While you dwelled upon your initial years, so how did your family adjust to life there? Your parents moved pretty late.
So Ashish, my parents only moved about 20 years ago, and they did because their first grandchild was born, and he was 5 at the time, and the second grandchild was on the. And so in the initial years, obviously, grandchilds kept them very busy. And then I do have a lot of cousins who have settled near around here. And so that built up their social life between my cousins.
And your wife is from Delhi.
And my wife is from Delhi, indeed. And my wife's brother and sister also live close by. So now, in terms of close family, we have quite a few within an hour's driving distance, some as close as 10 minutes away. So now that has become the family network. And if you compare that to an average third or fourth generation American, whose family might actually be across the country. So from that regard, I think I have more ties, family ties, near my house than an average American would. Especially because I live in an area where we do get a lot of migrants from other states within the US, in the Washington, DC area. So for somebody who has lived here for 30 years, it's still not the norm. So it's a complete cross-section of folks that you find here, from different paths of life, different career choices, different history of how long the family has been in America. Some of them can trace it back to the Mayflower. I met somebody who had 150 years ago, he had one person in his family tree who was a Sikh from Punjab, 3 brothers who had come to California in 1850. And back then, you can imagine that they had no ability to communicate back home. So it was 3 brothers, and those were the only Indians in the entire family tree since then. And so I would never have guessed looking at him. But yeah, so really a complete cross-section of people.
Okay. Isha, how about you? What were the challenges in the initial years?
So I live here by myself. My parents are back home in India, and my brother and my sister-in-law, they are based in Dubai. So initial years, I think I need to really mention that I think my parents made a lot of sacrifices. I think they would have loved me to be home, to be in India, but they were very kind to make that adjustment for me and to let me pursue. So I think for the first year, settling in was slightly, you are always overwhelmed with emotions, not having your family around and not being able to share, your daily routine or kind of things that you would want to share. But over the years, I did get used to it. And again, I think because I had stayed away from home in Bombay for already 2 years, I think the scene was kind of set for me in that sense. But I visit them quite frequently. I do see them. I speak to them very, very often, nearly every other day. I speak to them. So I think for how much ever I kind of adjusted, I think my parents did more. My family did more, and they've never complained about it. So that's helped me out as well.
That's good. One thing, Isha, in your work routine, is there any reference to India at any point in time?
So I work in a borough which is very highly diverse in terms of ethnic population. It is actually one of the most diverse populated borough. So I do work with families from Indian origin. And in my previous role within Children's Services, I was in a role where I was undertaking kinship assessments, which basically means that sometimes if we see that a child is at risk of abuse or harm and needs a safer place, we identify family links, and that could be based anywhere. So I did visit India to undertake those assessments of, you could be a dadi or a nani for a child, and we would assess to see if that's a safe place for a child to live in. So definitely I work with Indian origin population very much so in my work, but there have been opportunities where I've undertaken specific pieces of work just around making sure that, that family link and that ethnic link is maintained and is served to the child.
Okay, that's great. How about you, Sunil?
Ashish, before I answer that question, I should tell you that Isha reminded me of, I spoke about my parents when they migrated to the US. But when my brother and I left them, the isolation we felt here was actually mirrored by them as well, because they weren't expecting their kids to move out as early as my brother and I did, him at 19 and me at 15. And so the sacrifices that result from parents, Indian parents, who are so focused on their kids, and significant part of their day and life and decisions revolve around the kids. For them to make that sacrifice is something that I still admire, and I look back and imagine how difficult it must have been for them, especially to have their kids be in a foreign land. So Isha, thank you for reminding me of that. I neglected to mention. Now, in terms of India, in the first 20 years of my career, I didn't really have much interaction with India. I remember though, once I was on a video call in 1994 with our office in the UK. And we were discussing when I should visit the UK team next. And they mentioned a particular week. And the UK team turned to the camera and said, "Oh, Sunil, you can't come that week." And I had not quite processed why. And one of my team members sitting across the table from me said, "Why not? Why can't Sunil go that week?" And so the guy in the UK says, "Oh, that's Diwali." And then, by then I had pieced it together as well that it was Diwali. And the guy on my team, who I had worked with for, at that point, over 3 years, he says, "What's Diwali?"
Oh.
And I felt bad that me, having worked with him for 3 years, had never taken the time to talk to him about my culture, my heritage, and what I do to celebrate my background. And in the UK, another non-Indian, non-Hindu person had good awareness to the point of knowing that I can't travel a few weeks hence because it was Diwali. So that's probably the earliest memory I have of where India and our culture showed up in the workplace. But then 10 years ago, I moved to Computer Sciences Corporation, which had, at that time, I think 20,000 people working in India. After that, I went to IBM, and among all the countries that IBM employs staff, India is the largest country. And now I'm at Accenture, where again, I think in India, we probably have 1.5 lakh people. And so in the last 10 years, India has been the absolute centerpiece of any discussion at work, because so much of the IT that my last 3 employers of the last 10 years, they rely on Indian talent to deliver on our commitments to our customers. And the Indian talent across all those 3 companies has done a brilliant job of doing so. And in fact, some of the benefit that we all enjoy around the world is largely because of the affordability and the high quality of what delivering out of India has done for IT.
Now, having understood that you're working with the Indians and you have worked in India as well, along with the UK, US, what do you think are the 2 main differences in working and living between the US or UK and India?
So let me take the work part first. They oftentimes, these questions come up, and I had limited experience until I had an opportunity to go and work in India 9 years ago, where for 7 months, I ran the delivery organization for CSC in India, delivery for infrastructure services. So that was 6,500 people, never had 6,500 people reporting up to me. And we had a lot of changes to introduce. So that got me an opportunity to get to know them, understand the challenges. And I boil it down to 3 things, or rather maybe 4 things. One of them is timeliness of delivery. In India, culturally, outside some of the professional disciplines, people are not used to receiving things on a timely manner. You ask the darji, when will this be ready? He'll say tomorrow, but it would really take 4 or 5 days because they just don't plan their time enough. But when you get to the professional environment, you have to change, and people do change, and Indian companies do deliver on time. But it is a challenge working in India where you are expected to deliver on time because you're in a highly paid professional field. But the services that you're consuming in your personal life and also in your work life, whether it's getting some physical plant things done, a wall moved, conference room setup, etc., those services are not going to be delivering to you on time. So that is significantly jarring, where that's not the case in the US. Yes, people are late sometimes, as am I, but it is about the same proportion. If I'm on time 90% of the time, the services I consume are on time 90% of the time as well. Second thing is that I find Indians, and I had trouble as well, most of them have not learned to say no. It's a big joke among a lot of our friends, expat friends, is if you ask anybody on the street in India, hey, where is this hotel? Where is this temple? Where is this mosque? Literally everybody will have an answer. It may not be a correct answer, but they will give you an answer on how to get there. That's one of the things I had to learn in my first job, when my boss told me it's okay to say no, but then don't stop there. After saying no, say, hey, let's get together, let's together find out the answer. And the value of doing that is it sets the expectation in the person you're working with, but it still gives them the same help that you would have given if you had not told them the truth and started to try to help them. So that's the second. The third, I think, is just how we communicate. In India, I have seen in many shops, in some workplaces as well, people yelling to subordinates. Now, that's also a culture that comes from the outside environment. And in the professional office, it is dramatically diminished, but not vanished. Whereas in the US, it is literally unheard of. I've never been yelled at work. I have experienced seeing somebody yelling at somebody else, and it was considered wholly inappropriate. HR was called in, and that person was given one warning. Second time, he was out of the company. So that's another culture that happens. So the result of these three things, and I do think it's a result of these three things, is a confidence factor. One of the things we'll find is that when Indian professionals leave India to come to work in the UK, work in the US, they find that their competence is valued, appreciated, and respected. And that results in their confidence going up, to be able to speak up, to be able to contribute, to be able to express their point of view. Whereas when I see people with similar expertise in India who have not had the benefit of working in a team, in an organization where there is mutual respect, they don't have the confidence to operate in that manner. So those are the four things that I see difference from a work perspective. Now, on the personal side, some of this, as you can imagine, leaks out, right, in terms of commitment on service providers and things like that. But the biggest difference is that you're expected to do many things yourself, whether that's vacuuming the house, installing a TV on your wall. Those services are available. They're very expensive. People don't want to come for small projects. They will simply say no because they have other work that they rather do. And the availability of services makes it so easy for you to do it yourself. And a great example of that is the YouTube videos you see of everything. Yesterday, for example, for my daughter, she and I repaired our projector ourselves, watching a YouTube video. Because if I had taken it to a shop to get repaired, they would have charged me more than it was worth. And so that's a big difference. The second big difference in personal life is there is an expectation of personal space, both in physical space and in time. So if I've told somebody I'll be at their house at 6, I'm expected to show up between 6 and 6:15, period. If I'm going to be later than 6:15, I will text and let them know. If this 6 feet separation that has started due to the pandemic, it's not as difficult here because there has been an expectation for people to give their personal space. That's also something that I see in the norm. And let's see if there is. Oh yeah, the one other thing is assumption of quality. UK, US, Europe, the quality is not quite like in Japan where it's extreme, but it's still far superior than what sometimes we are faced with buying something in India. I remember in the mid-80s getting my white shirts laundered in a chain in Connaught Place, a very posh dry cleaning facility, one my uncle said was the best there was. After translating rupees to dollars, they charged me the same amount of money. Now, granted, people in India weren't earning that much, right? So for them, that was really expensive. But for me, I paid the same amount of money. The quality of the dry cleaning was worse. I do not expect that when I give my shirts in the UK or in France or in the US. So those are the differences in the world. Food, clothes, transportation, I mean, much superior. I mean, yes, it is sometimes some of the good stuff might be slightly unaffordable for the general population, but any person who is doing my job in India, the access they have for food, clothes, and transportation and entertainment, these four things, far superior. Now, they have to get used to the other negatives I talked about, but these four positives are definitely far superior in India. There is a lot in the US, and Isha can probably talk a lot more about that, with loneliness.
So Isha, how do you perceive these differences, while, you're staying in UK for the past 10 years in living and in, working. So how do you feel like that?
Yeah, I think Sunil has covered a lot of points which are very important. The difference I really see at one of the areas is the dignity of labor. The amount of respect and dignity of any kind of job that is given in the West. So that could be, from a role of a manager to even a person who is maybe has a very tiny shop or is doing cleaning in someone's house. There is a lot of dignity and respect given to any kind of job or profession. It is considered as in a more professional arena. And I think that is really important because what it does, it divides the barriers for people to think that, oh, I'm upper to this person, or, this is the job that is very menial and all. And I see so much value in it. The wages are very much set under a lot of legal framework. And there is that language of dignity and equality that runs through. And as Sunil was saying, that the processes here for any kind of misconduct or misbehavior is so well laid out that automatically an environment of having that kind of respectful approach towards people is very naturally flown in that sense. The other aspect, I think, between what I've observed here is the work-life balance. I think here timeliness is very, very important, and they understand that after 9 to 5, this is our personal space, our personal time. There are no appointments and there are no expectations that you would need to work after 5. Although there are occasions where we do, but there's a lot of appreciation and recognition of that. But I have seen a lot of effort from my own experience, from my own managers, that they would not welcome anyone working beyond 5. And they really promote well-being and mental well-being and staff well-being in that sense. And I think these elements are really important because at the end of the day, we all are humans, and we need to look after ourselves. We need to look after our own well-being, our own emotional, mental well-being. And it is really important to have a work-life balance. And I definitely see that in the West, and that provides us with that. The other aspect, I think I would just coming from a social work background, I think how the profession in itself is seen and recognized. In comparison to India, it's very different. Say, for example, wage disparity and the recognition to the field in terms of how it's given to the West. I think there is a lot of work needs to be done, across different countries to really appreciate this field, because there's a lot of hard work, there's a lot of emotional hard work that goes on to it. And I think sometimes the field gets undermined just because of the nature of it. But I think in the West, especially here, the recognition and the kind of respect that's given, the importance that is given, that's quite valuable. And I feel that we can do more in that field in India.
That's
Tanya, if I could just make a contrarian perspective to Isha's just now. Isha, I think the pandemic has changed this work-life balance equation around the world.
Yes, definitely.
We are all the
I
same,
totally agree with
and there are no boundaries left.
the pandemic has really shown how people at the grassroots have come together, how medical experts, scientists, nurses, cleaners, they have put themselves at a lot of risk, to manage this situation. And still services and civil services like, police and social services, they've been on the front line to, serve the community. And I think that recognition is now coming up, and I really hope that it continues.
so true, Isha. That is so. So my next question, Isha, how often is the frequency of your visits in maybe India to your parents, and what do you do over here?
Sure. So my plan is always to meet my parents and my brother and sister-in-law at least twice a year. But if that doesn't happen, then once a year is standard. I am in India every December. I call it as a snooze month because I don't do anything. I literally take a break and I get spoiled by my family to no degree. So my first fly in is to Dubai. I spend some time with my brother and sister-in-law, and they really spoil me. From then, I am home to India to my parents, and that's even worse because I get really spoiled and pampered. And once I'm back here, I'm like, oh, who's going to do all of this? So I have to really myself to get back into the routine. So it's usually between 1 to 2 trips a year to home, and if not to home, then we might decide to just do a family vacation or just meet somewhere in Central and just spend some time.
Sunil, my question to you is the same. That having been born in India, how often do you come back to India, and what really excites you while you come to India?
Well, going back home is all about the pampering that Isha was speaking about. And so after I first moved out of India, my parents were in Malaysia. So going back for that pampering that we also need, I would go to Malaysia. And so the first time that I returned back to India was 11 years after I had left. So I had left as a child, I came back as a man. When I left, Delhi had one flyover at the Safdarjung airport. And of course, 11 years later, Asia gains the economic boom, and you couldn't even count the number of flyovers now, or even back then when I came back. But after that, I got married to somebody from Delhi. So obviously we would visit Shalu's parents often. And then when the kids were born, we obviously took them back often. And it was really about meeting relatives, doing shopping for clothes, and visiting landmarks. Those were literally the 3 reasons we went back for. And as the kids' school got busy, the trips became less frequent, and it started focusing on cousins getting married, which was even more fun because you went back again to meet relatives, check, to buy clothes, check, to visit landmarks and sightseeing. Well, that was a little more difficult. But hey, the other 2 things got done in loads, so that worked out really well. Now, a lot of my friends who have gone to college in India, which I did not do, or worked in India, which I did not do, they do love going to meet up with their friends and doing socializing. And that's something I'm really happy for the DPS Alumni Network, because it does now allow me to connect with friends from 40 years ago. And yes, the memories are weak, but they're very deep. And so just seeing them for lunch or dinner, much more grown-up kind of activities, has been absolutely wonderful. And DPS was a incredibly sweet time in my life. And so I have really good memories of it. And those friends are very dear to me, even though we don't have daily or even monthly connects anymore, or never did for the last 40 years. So I do love to see them, but there's not as enough of that interaction, but every time it becomes more. And since the kids have gotten more busy, it's just me and my wife, or me just going for work. So that ends up being every other year at a minimum. Sometimes uh, once a year. And when I was working in India for 7 months, I went to India 12 times that year, 11 for work and 1 for personal.
Wonderful. So, understanding by how you're telling me, how, usually how long is your visit? Or maybe let's talk about how long was your last visit when you visited to India? And maybe you can tell me, where did you stay over there and what did you actually do there?
So, one of the things that the US really lags behind Europe and India is the number of days of vacation people get, and further, culturally, the number of days of vacation they actually take. As little a vacation period as we get, generally 2 weeks, though I get a lot more, the amount that people take is even less than they receive. It's a very workaholic culture, and there is, of course, people taking time in the evenings and weekends for their personal self, but not taking time away from work. So the last time that I was in India, it was for work. I had 4 days of meetings, and I took 1 day ahead of the meeting and 1 day after the meeting, and I spent 2 weekends, one in Mumbai and the other weekend in Bangalore. In Mumbai, I have 4 aunts. So in 36 hours, I visited all 4 of them, and I stayed in a hotel. I literally, that's all I did, is visit from one house to the other, spend time with them. It was absolutely wonderful because you would imagine they like to spoil you too, and it's fun to talk about life back then and see the similarities between my mom and her sister and my dad and her sisters, and of course they want to know how my parents are doing and stuff. So that was really wonderful. In Bangalore, I had cousins, meeting up with them after, I don't know, 20, 30 years, and finding out that even though our lives were completely separate 20, 30 years, we have so much in common. And then the love you feel, like my father really likes the khaskhas gajak, which is only available in North India. But my cousin called multiple people, discovered the one store in Bangalore that carried that gajak from Jaipur. And we were able to get a suitcase worth. And the level of effort it took, I'm almost embarrassed to say, I'm not sure if I would normally have, I mean, now I would, but normally would have thought of putting that in if somebody came to visit me and they had a special request. But that's just typical in India, and the warmth it makes you feel, to the point of, why your dil is Hindustani. It's just amazing.
Isha, how about you? When did you last come here and who did you stay with and what is that you actually love doing over here?
Sure. So I come to Delhi. That's the starting point always. I'm at home with my mom and dad. And we like to spend Christmas together. So usually I'm there for Christmas. And it's a thing in between us that we have a Christmas tree, we go to the church, we have a very really nice meal, we really enjoy ourselves, and then we plan to visit my grandparents, and they are in Haridwar, so we go see them. And then I think our focus is more around just spending time. I think my mom just loves to feed me, my dad loves to feed me, my brother also loves to feed me. So when I'm on holiday, all I get is khana khalo, khana khalo. So that's all I do. I just eat. I get spoiled, and I think I really enjoy time, with my mom. And if my sister-in-law is there, we go to these local markets in India, in Delhi. Sorry. We go to Sarojini Nagar, or we go to Janpat and all, and I just love it. So we do these tiny things, and there's just so much there's so much fun in it, and it's not like we go on like really big events or parties here and there, even just being home and just being with each other and just keeping it really simple. But really, a lot of fun kind of environment in the home is what I usually have from December to mid-Jan. Yeah.
Wonderful, Isha. I think I can totally relate. It's wonderful to hear that.
Sunil, you mentioned some time back about Diwali. So tell us, how do you celebrate major Indian festivals there?
Yeah, so in the recent bit, like 10 years, Holi has become the festival we celebrate probably with the most enthusiasm.
Mhm.
And part of it is that the activities we do are as interesting for my friends as it is for my kids and their friends. So we usually end up going to a park. It's dry Holi because Holi is still cool, if not cold, in Northern Virginia. So it's dry Holi. But it is just an incredible lot of fun. By going to the park, we're able to make sure none of our houses get dirty. We bring food. We spend like 3 or 4 hours there. Usually, we are lucky to get a sunny day. Sometimes when it rains, obviously, we have to reschedule. But that's the one we celebrate in the biggest way. Diwali is second, and Diwali is just a series of parties. Lots of people here have become really good cooks. So besides my wife, my friends and their abilities are astounding, both guys and gals. So we have a series of parties where, frankly, we gain weight as if we were Isha visiting India. I mean, it's like that, and that goes on for a month. Um, and now recently we started doing the team party thing in the evening as well, which is not something I'd ever done before. Besides that, our celebrations are more personal. Janmashtami, Dashera, or Raksha Bandhan. These are all ones that we do either by going to the temple or doing prayer at home, but they are obviously much more personal and much more religious in nature. But compared to the number of festivals in India, that is really it. Those 5 is really what we end up celebrating. And a huge part of it is that's what our friends do as well.
Okay, that's good to know. How about you, Isha? I understand Christmas is with family here, but what about other festivals?
Sure. So I live in an area which is very diverse in terms of its population. So I've got friends from different cultural backgrounds, from different religious backgrounds. So I get to celebrate all festivals in that sense. But Diwali specifically, I've got a lot of friends. Who celebrate Diwali, and we all are associated to a nearby temple, and we tend to volunteer sometimes for any kind of religious or social issues in that sense. And so we have a really good circle. So for Indian festivals, we all do get together and we have a feast together. So, and then I've got some friends who would invite me over for Eid, so I get to see even that side of the culture. And then, as I said, Christmas is with my parents. We usually attend the church, and we have a massive feast at home. And then I think I get to see every kind of I get a good exposure to different cultural and different religious practices here.
Okay, that's good. Next round is a rapid fire round, and I'll start with you, Sunil. I have a couple of quick questions for you. These are, the rapid fire ones. Typically either or sometimes just one sentence questions. The answer can be given in one sentence. So my first question is a book that inspires you.
So the Isaac Asimov trilogy, the Foundation trilogy, which actually ended up being 5 books, they really are a good commentary on society. So they are quite inspirational.
Okay. And the next one is how do you de-stress?
So it's usually working on a honey-do list that my wife has kept, and these days I'm quite stressed basically because I haven't worked on those items for her. And then, of course, seeing friends and just sitting and chatting.
Okay. Now, next, tell us something, one thing that no one knows about you.
That no one knows about, right? You know, I'm usually quite transparent, so it's tough for me to come up with it. But um, nobody other than my friend who is on from the Cayula network really knew that I was doing this today, because I know you were recording it and it would be on Facebook and YouTube. So I figured, you know what, let it be a surprise.
Okay. Now, are you more of a, in current scenario, are you more of a movie or a web series person?
Um, Movies, I think. I feel that the artist put a lot more into the craft and it shows in the results. So definitely movies.
Okay. Okay. My last question to you is like, if you were to hire, would you follow young and hungry or experienced and traditional?
Well, if the choice is between only those two, then I would definitely go for the young and hungry. But if I had the opportunity to blend the two, then the young who respect tradition is really the best combo.
Kudos.
Tanya, over to you. You can grill Isha.
Okay, Isha, let's see if you find this interesting. I've tried to make it interesting for you. Okay,
Okay.
your first questions. Describe yourself in a hashtag.
Chilled.
Oh,
Wonderful.
with Kunal on, I thought you might say spoiled.
Okay, the next question. One book that maybe inspired you or you just love reading.
Right. I think The Alchemist, I've read it several times, and I think I keep getting different meanings of it every time I read. So that's very dear to me.
Wonderful. The craziest thing that you've done while you were in UK.
So many. I'm just thinking which one is the most decent
The
one.
craziest one.
Easiest one. I'm skydiving in end of this week. So yeah, I think that will be the craziest thing I'm doing at this moment in
So, okay. Rajma chawal or pizza?
If in India, Mama's Rajma Chawal any day, at any time, that will do. If in London, pizza any day, any time will do.
Okay. One thing that have inspired you.
Um, I think there is a lot that I've learned from people around me. But I think if I was to go back and start off from I think my parents, they've been a huge inspiration to me, just around how they've approached life, how they've approached work, and how much hard work they've done in their journey. I think that really created that sense of value in me, that I also started dreaming, and I also started setting goals for myself. So I think that would be the crux of my inspiration.
Wow, Ishan, that was touching and wonderful. With that, we have concluded our rapid fire round, and Sunil and Isha both have given such amazing answers, I'd say. Now, I'd like to ask you, okay, so, you are there in UK, but tell us two things which, might say, Phir bhi dil hai Hindustani.
Sure. I think I'm someone who likes to be in balance of things. So I don't like to go into any kind of extremes for anything, but I do try and follow a path of spirituality, and I think that comes from my Hindustani side and my origins in India, and which I still carry. So I would say my value base is pretty much reminds me of being in Hindustani. The second is that I really miss and I really love Indian street food. And I don't think I would care for anything if someone was just here and say to me, okay, have some golgappas. I think I would just leave everything. Food is something that I really miss.
Okay. Sunil, the same question goes to you. Give us two instances where we can, feel that, yeah, फिर भी दिल है Hindustani.
Okay. So it's funny that when you say that, The one thing that, oh, I can't share the screen. So, the photograph that Ashish has shown earlier with me wearing a red hat, it was for a Halloween costume where I was planning on singing that song. Sir pe lal topi Rusi, Juta hai Japani, Phir bhi dil hai Hindustani. And that really is a song I identify with, because there are so many things in my life that are not Indian. But the one part that is absolutely Indian is my heart and how I view things. So I think that's definitely one of the items. The other part of it is that I think one of the big thing we believe in India, almost across religions, is this idea of doing the right thing, giving into life, and life will, give back to you. This concept of karma, and I know it originated as a Hindu concept, but a lot of people have started believing in it, and it has certainly my sense that a lot of people in India believe in it, regardless of religion, and so that is core to what drives my day-to-day operation, and how I act and what decisions I make, and when presented with a choice, how do I determine what I should do? It is that, and I feel that is very Indian, very Hindustani, and I believe that a lot of people who feel that they are Hindustani also do the same.
And I think third thing can be your t-shirt.
So this is by some artist did this of Ganeshi, and I just love it. And a friend of mine in whose house I saw this piece of art this is like 20 years ago. He saw it in India when he visited once, and he got it for me. I love it for what it represents. I love it for the fact that my friend bothered to go remember it, find it, buy it, bring it to me. And it really is about this love of being a Hindustani. So it really does say a lot. So I agree with you. That's my third.
Sunil, my next question to you is, do you have any plans to shift back permanently to India?
If my India, the one I left, was available, I would shift in a heartbeat. It isn't. And the India that is available to us today is as alien to me as if I were to move to Arkansas or Alabama in the US, and I'm not looking to do that. Mm-hmm. So unless I am afforded an opportunity which attracts me because of the opportunity, I don't think I will find comfort in India. I enjoy visiting. It's probably one of the best places for me to visit, but I don't think I can live and be successful in the workplace there.
Okay, well said. And how about you, Isha?
So for now, I see myself here because I still feel I need to learn a lot. I need to grow a lot at a professional front, even at a personal front for that matter. But I do see that maybe in long term and in distant future, I would want to, pursue some social work initiatives in India. But I think I would look out for the right platform and the right skill mix. So I am in making, and let's see when I'm able to execute it.
Okay, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. So Isha, tell us, when was the last time you visited DPS?
So if I was to say visiting inside the building, I think that was 2005. I've never been to school after that, but because my mom is a teacher, and whenever I'm home, every year we get chance to like pick and drop her to school. So in that sense, yes, I did visit school in Jan. That's the last time I saw the site of a school, Jan 2019.
Okay. And how about you, Sunil?
Ashish, I'm embarrassed to say I have never visited after I left. I attempted in 2010 to visit the building, but it was on the weekend and the guard out front wouldn't let me in. Now, it was easy for me to find the place because I knew it's right across from Sangam Theater, and Sangam Theater is still there. But no, I have not visited either Greater Kailash nor Archapuram branch. From what I saw from the outside, I wouldn't recognize the place anyway.
Okay. So tell me, Sunil, I'll start with you first. what would be your message for DPS alumni community?
So I think a lot of people have various expectations of participation, the value they'll receive, the effort that it will cost. And I'll say to them that whatever you're thinking, it will change in 5 years, it'll change again in 10 years, and so on. So it's important to get connected, be part of the network. It's okay to just be a spectator. And it's okay to also choose to participate strongly, but only for a year or two. The very value in our network is that there are no long and serious expectations of participation, leadership, spectating, or having any responsibilities. But there are so many times in life, getting those memories, getting to meet folk like Mrs. Khanna on a setting like this, it is uplifting, connects you back to your own roots, not even where your parents and grandparents came from, but where you came from, where you matured into the hopefully fantastic human being you are. And connecting with, as time goes on, connecting through this network with friends and classmates and teachers, there will be times when you find it incredibly uplifting. So get connected, even if you don't have time to participate.
Okay. How about you, Isha? What would be your message to DPS alumni community?
I just feel to start off just thanking you for this platform, because I think I got connected with so many people, and I was just flooded with so many memories. Just getting back associated with people from DPS. Yeah, just being very grateful and thankful for this opportunity. I sometimes I'm a huge believer of pursuing our dreams and aspirations. And I think for all of us, the first time we aspire or set a goal for ourselves is when we are in school. We want to become something, we want to achieve something. And now we are in that phase, or that, we've achieved, or we've come to our goal, or we are just closer to achieving our goal. So we must value our journey. We must respect our journey. We must share that journey with others, because you never know what inspires someone else and what you can learn from others. So I would just share that.
All right. So I must say that, it was wonderful talking to you both. Two people, two different countries, two different professions, two different generations. And yet, they'll say Hindustani and they'll say Dipsite. So it was wonderful talking to you both. Thank you, Isha. Thank you, Sunil, for taking time out and talking to us. It has been wonderful to know about your incredible journey. And I'm sure it will inspire many Dipsites, the ones who are currently here and the ones who will watch a deferred telecast. So it's going to inspire a lot of us. Thank you so much to both of you.
I was very happy to see that you have started this webinar. So I was very keen on meeting my sweet little Isha, whom I taught her class 1, and Kunal also, her brother, and of course her mother was my colleague. And I also remember you, Rajiv, because my daughter Winnie Mathur keeps talking about you. And it's very nice to be connected back to the roots. And I'm very proud that I'm a part of DPS alumni group now. And thank you very much, and all the best. Keep introducing old students like this. It's a pleasure to see how well they are progressing in life. And God bless you all. Thank you. I used to enjoy being with the children, making them participate in workshops and TV and all that. So now also I like to remain active with my grandsons. I'm teaching them all eco-friendly products. And Isha would remember, and Kunal too, that best out of waste was my passion, and gardening also. So I've now become an environmentalist. I make my grandsons participate in various projects, and I make them write, and I also write articles.
Okay.
I think I'm out of words. It's such a pleasure to have you here, ma'am. And I still remember you were my class teacher in first standard, and I used to wait for your card to come in, and I used to just come running to you. Just so much warmth and love you've given us, and I just feel so touched. I'm so glad that I got to see you, and I got to hear your views, and just knowing that your blessings are with us. I'm just sending so much positivity and so much warmth to you, and thank you so much.
Thank you. May you all rise and shine in life and keep the DPS banner higher and higher and higher.
I'll just share 3 memories, ma'am. I don't know whether you recollect or not, but every day we started with the Gayatri Mantra. That was the first memory that I have. The second one is for the, you used to drive a blue Maruti 800. I still remember that.
Yeah.
And third, ma'am, I will always remember that interaction that you took us to Doordarshan in the Siam Pollution Check Mela. I'm actually, my eyes are in water after seeing you for so long, ma'am. Even with Madhu, ma'am, I share so much of fond memories. Everybody on my WhatsApp group have just reverted from starting from Aditi Sanyal, Kriti Malik, all our batchmates, ma'am. We all, whenever we are there, we always chant that 1D Gayatri Mantra. It's like vested in our head, ma'am. So I just pray for good health. It's wonderful to see you, ma'am. Really wonderful to see you. I just pray for a very good health, ma'am.
You taught me in class 2nd, and I have such fond memories of you. And I used to be so excited. I remember I used to have a second last period on every Thursday with you, and every Wednesday I used to be so excited that tomorrow is your lecture. Your lecture was one of the best lectures that as children used to look forward to. And after seeing you on screen, it brings back so many happy memories, and that nostalgia of you being present and taking me back to those wonderful days. I cannot even start to share how I feel looking at you, ma'am. It's wonderful meeting you.
Mrs. Khanna, I tell you to, happy Teachers Day for one. So it's so wonderful to hear from our alumni speaking just so warmly about you. It's, for me who never got to interact with you being in Artipuram, to hear my fellow alumni remember teachers so lovingly, it's just awesome. It's heartwarming to hear. So I was touched to be here to hear this.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I was just sharing a memory. I think I was in 2nd standard or so, and I had my first experience with celebrity stars, and ma'am took me to an event at Oberoi Hotel, and I got a chance to meet Rahul Dravid. And ma'am was so loving and so kind. I still remember she said, "Get your pictures clicked because this is how you make memories." And I still have it with me.
I still have it.
And I'm just sending so much love and warm wishes to you, ma'am. You've really touched our lives, and we really value you.
And I also remember that incident. I took you all in my blue Maruti.
Yes.
Because the school did not give us the transport, and my car was full of goodies and balloons, which we got from the company, Alchemist.
Deka from 82 batch, Mathura Road. 7 years in the hostel. Right now I'm based in Moscow, Russia. Before this, I was in US, Minnesota, Minneapolis.
Today's show is also very special in a way. We have good representation from the Millennium Kids, as the world calls it. So there's also another similarity. Isha as well as my co-host Tanya, both of them are second generation websites. Both of them have their mothers who are colleagues who are teaching in DPS. So it's, and obviously we have Kunal, another Millennium Kid. So, it's a wonderful thing to have those millennials, when I'm saying millennials, mean the ones who passed out after 2000.
I so appreciate what you, Rajiv and Tanya are doing. This is a lot of effort week over week, and it is really appreciated.
Thank you so much.
So I got to thinking, when Sunil said that he came very early in age when he migrated to, that side of the world. So I was wondering, what made you migrate that time of the, I mean, it was not common that people migrated or even thought of going outside. So what really inspired you to go out that time?
Tanya, everybody's circumstances are different. My circumstance was that my brother that I was very, very close to had gone to the US for his studies. So obviously it was, I really wanted to be with him and do what he was doing. But then there was a practical side of it that I did London University O-levels, which were considered equivalent to 10th grade in India. But in the US, they were considered equivalent to high school. So I had a choice to either go back to India and do 11th and 12th and then go to college. But if I went to US, I could go to college directly. So it was a matter of simply convincing my parents that, hey, my brother's there to help me. I can handle the academic load. And so I had to take tests and stuff to prove it to them. And my parents made the sacrifice of having take on the emotional risk and worry of having their 15-year-old son go off to a different country. And I am grateful, so very grateful that they did. And my brother really made my life very easy and guided me through. We were at the same university, same department. And so that it enabled me to do that. And it was really the fact that it was easier. That was the easiest route.
Very touching.
And yes, he was a DPS graduate, DPS architect.
Oh, wonderful.
I was very happy to learn from you that video conferencing was 26 years ago. In 1994, you had your first video conference. So it's not that all this was not there, but suddenly everybody is on Zoom. Everybody, for everything. So I think that, I don't know if I should say this on social media or not, but as far as we are concerned, it's a boon. That now I can get Sunil from, from the US, Isha from UK, Kunal from Dubai, all at the same time. In every threat, there is an opportunity. Let's look for it and let's use it if possible. And so that's one thing. Second thing is, if any one of you here has any ideas how we can improve this, how we can make it a little more humorous, how we can make it a little more interesting for the participants. And if you know of your friends and all who would like to participate, please send me their email IDs, or you can drop in a line to them and say, hey, this is nice, why don't you also have a word with them? So that is how this process will keep on building it, and it will keep on going. Two other initiatives which I'm looking at starting from the DPS Alumni Network. One we've already started, it's called Careers Connect. What Careers Connect is going to do is that it's going to take, it's going to chat up with, let's say, 500 professionals from across the world, all from DPS, of course, and we're going to keep them in categories and then allow school kids to to listen to how do you become the numero uno at Accenture? How do you, become Kunal? I mean, how do you become, Isha, for example? There are lots of people who are studying psychology who would like to know, okay, how do I do this? How do I do that? Will I make a lot of money? Then what will happen? So we've got all the questions done.
You all should be more inspired by what Isha is able to accomplish day after day in a tough environment with the tough customers that she has to deal with. I just want to clarify, I am one of many managing directors at Accenture. It effectively just means that I'm in a leadership role at Accenture. Accenture has 525,000 people around the world. So certainly there is a lot that my career journey has allowed me to learn, and I do spend time paying it forward within my company because I do think it's important, and paying it forward in literally all my networks, whether it's friends or the DPS alumni or what have you. But I think the truly impressive is those who help those who cannot help themselves. And that's why, Isha, I am very impressed with what you're able to accomplish and the energy you bring to it.
Thank you so much. And that means a lot coming from you. And I think it's been a superb opportunity. I think I get a sense of so much humbleness from your side. So it's been a pleasure connecting. But as far as my journey goes, I don't think I should be taking any credit. I think it's all God's play. But I just feel we should just aspire and follow happiness, and wherever we can help people, it doesn't cost. Let's just do it.
Isha, shall I say something? With you, I think you're a person whose face reflects that, and I'm saying this because Kamini Dodi ma'am has been my teacher as well. So with Kamini Dodi ma'am being your teacher, I mean, this is like naturally coming down to she has always been so helpful. I remember my 10th boards, my English paper was there. I was so panicked, okay? And I called her, and my mama and I had a fight. So I was like, no, I'll not talk to you. But instead, I ended up calling Kamini ma'am, and she taught me. So, what you do, I think that's obviously commendable. But I think, as you know, the roots are sowed, so a beautiful person is brought up, and I think some credit can go to no one else but Kamini Dodi ma'am and maybe your family, and you
Yeah.
becoming such a beautiful individual.
Thank you so much. I can't thank my parents enough. I can't thank my brother enough. I think they've just been part of my journey so relentlessly. And one thing I really take from them is that they naturally there were a lot of social barriers, that you're a girl and you're leaving home and you're going, but they were just so supportive, and they still are. So I'm blessed with a lovely family, and in fact, even my sister-in-law, she's got my back. So I feel really secure, pursuing a difficult field, but I know I've got my family behind me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, with that, I think we have really stretched a little too long. So we'll now call it day and we'll now close the show. I thank you all for your time and your patience and look forward to seeing you next week when we have more guests. And thank you all. Namaskar. Good night.